They want to be authentically Black,
Right.
because when they're looking at ideas around code switching as well and mental health, some say that when they say, let's put it in a professional context, some people say that if you can code switch within the workplace, that's a bonus, because you know how to work the system in quotation marks, or it means that you're comfortable in yourself, you know who you are, but you can relate to different groups of people. So that's a skill. But then other people don't like the idea of code switching because they're saying you're a sellout. These ideas around you're no longer Black, you know, you're playing the game, you're playing the system to try and climb up.
It makes it difficult because it literally could be a case of like, I'm good with this hairstyle here, but I'm not good here. So that constant need to shapeshift, it's gotta take a toll on the psyche. On today's episode of Texture Talks, I will be speaking with Anna-Theresa Jieman, PhD candidate in psychology at the Queen Mary University of London and visiting student at the University of Oxford in the Department of Psychiatry, who is focusing her studies on experiences of depression amongst Black women in the UK. Today we dig into the psyche of the Black woman and the impact on her sense of self that we may never have considered before from frequently having to shapeshift between different styles. This episode is brought to you by Fulham Scalp and Hair Clinic, an incredible Black, female, mother and daughter-led trichology facility based here in London, who specialise in afro and curly hair and have dedicated their lives to helping us finally find the solutions to our biggest hair care problems. I've had a consultation with them, and listen, I've learned so much about my hair from that one session. It doesn't matter what condition your hair is in, sis, please take a moment and go and invest in yourself. Go to their website at www.fulhamscalphairclinic.com and get an appointment booked in today so you can get your hair care journey back on track. Don't forget to use my discount code TextureTalks5 to get 5% off your consultation fee. And also do not forget to hit the subscribe. We can get so much of our community together and connect, but we need more eyes and ears on this show. Please enjoy. Hello, Anna.
Hey, how are you doing, Paige?
You are laughing because you already know. It's been a day and it's like 9 a.m. So
already, and I'm just thinking, when I woke up this morning, I did not think it was going to end up like this.
But we move, and I'm very, very excited about this episode today because one of the things that I know are still stigmatized for the Black community, men and women, mental health.
10 out of 10.
10. So let's discuss it, shall we? Okay, let's start and ease people in.
Like a gentle
entrance into the topic. I know how it goes. Talk to me about your studies, your PhD, and what led you to choose the topic of your current studies.
First of all, thank you for having me. Really lovely to be here. But in terms of the PhD, it's very much mixed methods. So when I say mixed methods, is that we're looking at the literature base at the moment that's globally. And the studies we have found are mainly in the US, the UK, and Canada. Mainly in the US, a few of them are in the UK. And we also did interviews with Black women, focus groups, that kind of stuff. I wanted it to be a space where we could have Black women. And then we had a survey, so very quant, looking at how Black women endorse being a strong Black woman, how that affects their mental health. But in a nutshell, the study is looking at experiences of depression among Black women, focusing on the intersection between race and gender. So how does identifying as being Black and a woman actually affect or predict your outcomes when it comes to depression and anxiety in the UK? And in terms of where it stemmed from...
Try not to feel attacked throughout the entire interview. Carry on.
Pull yourself together.
It's not about me. It's not about me. Carry on.
Don't touch me that line. We'll get on.
My God, Anna, please carry on. Okay.
And as well, I think what was I going to say in terms of like where we're at the moment, we've done the data collection. Actually just say this, the work is very much guided by an advisory group of Black women with lived experience. So from the get-go, I wanted this to be a PhD, to be a study for Black women by Black women. And I didn't want it to be where it's just us, the researchers, in quotation marks. I was saying quotation marks, I still don't think I'm an academic.
I was like, girl. we can unpack that later. Okay.
But I wanted it to be work where it's impactful. So I wanted Black women to be involved in that.
Yeah.
And we're also working with 2 community organizations, Black Lives Matter and Catalyst for Change, that are also guiding the project.
What are the most shocking insights? Let's start there.
You're literally going to get me in trouble because none of this work is published yet.
I mean, okay, just give me some scoop.
So you're getting exclusive content right now. But I think a lot of it is shocking in that how, I guess, the difference among Black women, like we talk about this a lot within the community, but we always say Black women are not a monolithic group. There were so many divides in terms of how Black women identify, how they wear their hair, what that means to them, and also ideas around code switching. Some were pro, some were not pro code switching.
They wanted to be like completely authentically Black and they did not want to code switch, or that they didn't think that they were.
They want to be authentically Black, right? Because when they're looking at ideas around code switching as well and mental health, some say that, let's put it in a professional context. Some people say that if you can code switch within the workplace, that's a bonus because you know how to work the system in quotation marks. Or it means that you're comfortable in yourself, you know who you are, but you can relate to different groups of people. So that's a skill. But then other people don't like the idea of code switching because they're saying you're a sellout. These ideas around you're no longer Black, you're playing the game, you're playing the system to try and climb up. But are you, though? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I know what other Black people would say that I am.
But that's the thing. And I feel like that's one of the things that's coming up within the study that's been really shocking to me is like this great divide that's still within the Black community itself. And I feel like that's a massive facet of racism.
Yeah.
It's to divide people. And even within the focus groups, I think what I loved about the focus groups was that we had so many different women in the group, but then and we had again different perspectives, but everyone was so respectful of each other, and it was an excellent space. So one thing that came up for me, I started focus group. It was 9 a.m. I had done one in the evening. Literally jumped out of the shower, put my clothes on, walked in, and I laid my edges. And then one of the girls I'm not even gonna lie, I literally rolled out of bed, and of course, Anna, you have your edges laid because you have to show up here at work. And I was like, sis, why are you coming from now?
Relax, okay? Don't worry about my edges, sis.
But the thing is, we both laughed at because we just knew what the situation was.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd met this person. Literally just logged onto the Zoom, and she was I'm like, girl, can you just not? But it was a good thing.
It's funny, but I realized that because especially Black women have this lens of hair, I think because we discuss it so frequently, we think about it all the time, then we are looking through this lens of hair without realizing. On the bus, look at her braids. On the tube, look at that weave. Always. So we can't almost turn that off. And the fact that it's constantly a discussion, I think adds a lot of pressure. It makes all of us, without realizing, I believe, to always be on high alert for how our hair looks in our groups, in our Black communities, because we all know that we have that lens, right? Has anything alluding to that come up in your research where we feel like the pressure because we already know we feel the pressure from the West. We already know that. That's not new. But I think sometimes it's very interesting and very beneficial for us as a people to unpack the pressures that we put onto one another.
That's an interesting one because it is an additional, with Black women, I think there's always this intersection between race and gender. And we're not talking about issues of Black women. They always, a part of being a strong Black woman is that, the self-sacrifice and caretaking. So part of that is also you're constantly thinking about how your behavior is going to impact other people. So it might be that they are comfortable with their hair or walking out in their bonnet without laying their edges or whatever, you know how it is. But then they get thinking, how am I representing others? So there's high alert. Yes, they are on high alert, but it's not really about them in most cases. It's about others and how everyone else is going to be, how the rest of other Black women or the Black community or for mothers, their kids are going to be perceived. So yes, there's pressure on themselves. Like if you're going to be at work, I'm getting emotional. I have no idea why.
No, I am.
But if you're going to be at work, it's of course like you're thinking about how am I going to be perceived by white people or whatever. But if you're in a senior position, you're thinking, how are my junior colleagues going to be perceived? I am in this place. It's a privilege to be in this place or to be in this institution. I should represent others, because you think if I make a mistake, it's just going to reiterate or, solidify those ideas about Black women and Black people, that you're less than, you're uneducated, you don't deserve to be here. So if you think about that, like there's this idea that I have to represent, I am representing other people, the future that's to come, the people before me. And like also, if you're thinking about Black women, again, with the history of everything else, a lot of Black women are educated and they're doing quite well at the moment. You have, in most cases, you're carrying your family on your shoulders. So if I fuck up, lose my job, my kids, my ex-wife, that is all depending on me. So there's so many layers of disadvantage and that you carry, and like all this heavy burden, you're like, it's not just about you. So yes, there is a pressure, but
it's more like a pressure that we put on ourselves because we feel like we are so responsible for one another.
Exactly. You nailed it. That is it.
I feel that way. I feel that way doing this podcast. I feel that way with how my hair looks. I feel that, and I've been in corporate for years. And
you tell me about that.
And I wore wigs. I wore wigs, I wore weaves, and every now and again braids, but that became an issue. A few times.
Seriously?
And yeah. The meetings that I had scheduled with really big clients, there was like concern about whether or not it would be like me putting my best foot forward with the braids. Yeah, I talked about that on Good Morning Britain because it was a lot. Yeah.
Like the thing is, I still don't get that, and I feel like a lot of context is like needed with, because like then again, which then adds the difficulties in some places. Like I have a family member who works in fashion. She is considered cool because, she's like very Birkenstocks, Indian girl. She's got her locks, so within a wide majority space, like she's considered cool and very fashion, like she has tattoos. She's cool. But then like she was saying this, sorry to the brothers, but she was saying that like other like Black guys were now seeing her a certain way because she had braids. They were now associating her with like being, this person was hypersexualized and, promiscuous because apparently Rastafarians or whoever have this hair, that's like their way of life. They're very like juices. They were like, you smoke weed all the time. But and even if you do, that's my life. Like, who gives a shit? Like,
the funny thing is, when I interviewed Ajani Salman from Dreaming Whilst Black, so obviously he has freeform locks, and we were having this discussion that I honestly don't think so I'm Jamaican, he's Jamaican. I don't think people outside of even within the Black culture, but outside of Jamaica, so African cultures, I don't think they know that inside Jamaica, they're not a huge fan on the whole. Yeah. So everyone thinks like, oh yeah, Rasta this, Rasta this. You guys must be so proud and happy to see, I don't know, someone over here in the West with locks. You go back to Jamaica and a lot of it is attached to rebellion, promiscuity, drugs, and that's inside of Jamaica because that was the perpetuate persona of a Rasta way back in the day. So then the frustration is that we can switch between styles, especially as Black women. We do it a lot, but then there's so many layers to it. There's the layer of why, and that is a hard layer because you might think your layer is here. You might think this is your why. And if you dig, it probably is this.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
So me saying that back in the day, I just really loved wigs. A style's just a style, leave me alone. And that was my answer. I just liked the look of it. Dig. Terrified of wearing my afro.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of
digging to figure that out.
And I had to dig with intent. No one could force me to dig. No one could dig for me because I would cuss them out. I would be defensive. So there's the whole piece of why is your hair like that? Then it's the piece of who likes what style wear, because I could be in a group of Black men and they are like very authentically Black, the Black men that like push like Black love. And so I could be there with my blonde lace front and they'd be like, who are you here to say? Are you lost?
I love the way
them suddenly, okay, preparing to cuss you. And then you could leave that space and be in a group of black men that, I don't know, went to predominantly white schools. Maybe they have gone to a uni that's predominantly white. Maybe their friendship group's predominantly white. And they love that blonde wig. Oh my God, they love it. You take it off,
Raw. And the fact that they actually take it off freaks people out.
yeah, the black man with the same kinky curls is like, like he doesn't have it on his own
Did you
head.
not see your mama?
Like, what is it you believe you have? So then it makes it difficult because it literally could be a case of like, I'm good with this hairstyle here, but I'm not good here. So that constant need to shapeshift, it's gotta take a toll on the psyche.
It really does. And I feel like with a lot of ideas around shape shifting, people don't realize that it's a reactive response.
Yeah.
So if you had been like in a situation like you were saying, like with your weave, you probably would have been in a space where you had your afro, you felt uncomfortable, or something happened, and then from that, you then, as a way to cope with that situation, you were now like predicting it's going to happen. So you were catching it before it even happens.
Literally.
So you're not gonna come for me. I'm gonna be ready because I'm gonna have my weave on. So you catch it before it even happens. Like you do it automatically then, or because like again you don't want to feel that pain, repress it, then you just react in that way going forward. And then again, you then just continue doing those behaviors. As you said, it gets buried underneath because then you then become comfortable.
Did you know that 22% of all multi-ethnic consumers, which is rising to 30% for black women, say that they need to go to a specialist shop to purchase health and beauty products? What about the specialisms for your scalp? Are we considering that professional? How much are you struggling to grow your hair right now? Are you finding maintenance or length retention a challenge? Or maybe it's the density. Do you need some guidance? What is the cost of peace of mind? Since 2011, Fulham Scalp and Hair Clinic have provided the Afro and curly haired community with the kind of honest and direct support needed to give us a clear understanding of the state of our hair and scalp and the steps that we need to follow to achieve real progress. Go to www.fulhamscalphairclinic.com and use my discount code TEXTURETALKS5 to get the help and support you need with a little discount. Let's get your hair care journey back on track.
Because I think with a lot of black women, they often navigate inside of being hypervisible and invisible. So you're hypervisible because, again, you're the token black person in a white majority space. So you're hypervisible in that, but you're also invisible in that in the boardroom or, when you're in the corporate world, when you went in, no matter how much you tried to assimilate, you were still invisible because you could say something, but you wouldn't be heard.
Yeah.
Your white colleague says it like, oh my goodness.
Oh my God, I've had that so many times. And you're sat there like,
I just said that. But then like this invisibility is because like although you are people that are tokenized within the institution, you're seen as though you're there to fill in a quota. So you've ticked the box for the institution, your job is done. Just keep quiet. Be grateful you're here, cashing your paycheck, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But then should you ever make a mistake, again, you're hypervisible. So all those great things that you're doing are not recognized. So some people then work twice as hard to get half as much. And no matter how much you work twice as hard and try to be accepted, it's never going to accept. And that's when then that, effect on your mental health then occurs. Because imagine if you're constantly working hard, you're trying to assimilate, you're trying to be cool, you're going to the pubs, you're doing all the luncheons, blah, 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 but people still don't accept you.
Yeah.
You're working hard, you're doing all the late nights, you're doing all the prep work, you're doing everything. But Paige, babe, you're still not good enough. Sorry.
Literally.
It's not a great feeling.
No.
And then you have the pressure from the black community, from some people that then see you as you're not part of the institution, you're no longer part of us because you're doing all this work. So where do you now belong?
Who are you talking to? Surely not me, because I have no idea. That is literally, that's been my life. And it's funny because the concept of changing hair, and I've done every hairstyle.
Legit.
The locks was the last one. I had to cut those up because I played with those dyes. But
I saw that on your Insta, and then when you show, I was like, oh my goodness. Also, you look great with short hair, FY.
Thank
you.
you,
look great with
but
anything but the hair, short hair, loving
those
it.
perming and those permanent dyes, oh my God.
When they're not the one.
No, I thought I was doing the most. I was like, yes, me and my red hair, yes. Went to the tricolorist, they were like, no. Your hair is mashed up. I was like, okay, so I cut it off. But then I thought about it and I was like, every single time I look at a photo with me bald, with a weave, with a wig, with braids, afro hair, pixie cut, I was doing that for a reason. And I can probably tell you what reason, or who I was doing it for, or who I was trying to emulate, or what environment I was trying to fit into at that moment in my life. There was always a driver. But it was never, if I really think long and hard, it was never just because I felt like it. There was always a wider purpose on who I felt I was at that time in my life, or what, you know, the persona you want to put, like, now I'm a bad bitch, like this is me now, or I've had a breakup, so now I'm gonna this, or now
I'm gonna be mad successful. I kind of wish I had
now I just got a promotion, I'm a director, let me get that wig back. There's always a reason, and after a while, it's like I have to strip it back to this to really be like, no, but what does Paige actually like? Like what hairstyle actually matches me? Because I think I've just been doing every single hairstyle for a reason, and not just because I felt like it aligned with myself. So that searching and seeking has been very difficult. And I feel like that has probably added to a lot of my anxiety. I've had a really bad bout of anxiety throughout my life, and I'm feeling like that probably is why this constant shape-shifting as Black women, changing things for style's sake, for your boyfriend, for your job, so you fit into that particular environment. I feel like that is constant grating on your sense of self, and that must be very anxiety-inducing for them. It can't just be me.
Oh, completely. And I feel like, as we were saying before, that's the reason why I pull, like, then, because one thing that came up in my study, and I always remember this because it really struck a chord with me. One person said, let's just call her Vanessa. She said, now I have all these Vanessas running around, you know, Vanessa, the one in the corporate world, Vanessa, the sister or the aunt or whoever, and I have no idea who I am. But then, like, so there's that loss of identity, but like with a lot of Black women that were socialized in the way they're comfortable with within themselves, they are now owning that identity. They are now saying, yeah, they're all these people running around, but they are all facets of me. Because I feel like, sometimes I feel like ignorance is bliss, and I always say this throughout my PhD, it's like the more knowledge we have, in theory, you'd think it's a good thing. But like if I am finding, again, it's just a reflection of me, that it's actually impacting me in a bad way. So before I started my PhD, I wanted to, and I've said this like multiple times, I thought that the more I knew about racism, gendered racism, Black women, shape-shifting, all these things, the more empowered I would be. And the more I would be like, yeah, you know, you're coming for me, that was gendered racism. I am going to respond, you know, I'm so empowered, I have all this knowledge. The opposite effect. The more I know now, it hits me harder. So like now I'm very much aware of all those microaggressions. You know, I walk in a room, I'm hyper aware of how I'm going to be perceived. Those ideas around stereotype threats. So I am now catching it, like we're discussing before it even happens.
Yeah.
So instead of just now, for me, what I am doing is that I am owning that, okay, this is who I am. I can be Anna in this space. I can be this Anna in this space. And again, those are all versions of me. And I am figuring out which versions of me I like and which versions of me I don't like. And that was very much, again, what led me to my PhD. Because even when I was applying for the PhD, I had offers to do PhD in other research areas. But I was like, I'm respectful that, like, I appreciate the inequality within that space, but I don't care. And also, I wanted to be myself in those spaces. I knew it was going to be a hard project. I wanted to show up as myself. I wanted to even, like, you know what, roll out of bed, take a shower, and rock in front of me like my ex.
Yes.
And no one would judge me for it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly. So, like, now it's like I am very much embracing that I can be this person in this space. I can be this person in this space. And those are all versions of me.
And that's
those that
okay.
I don't like. Exactly. Those that don't like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. You don't like me? That's a you problem.
That is a you problem. No, seriously, that is how I feel now. Like, I genuinely have gotten to a point where, and I think this also happens when you really, like, life starts to hit. When life starts to lick you in the headpiece, you ain't got time. Lick you up, mash you up. You ain't got time. When I think about when I used to obsess about certain things like weaves and wigs and laying baby hairs and blah, blah, blah. For me personally, I had the time to do that. I had the capacity in here to lend to it. I do not have that capacity. I am running around town and I am doing this podcast and trying to do this, and trying to speak to this TV producer, making my content in the mornings and doing my hair care. So when I wake up, there isn't now a bliss blissful 2 hours of just.
What's happening? Yeah.
I'm literally like, so that's why I stopped wearing a lot of makeup as well, because I'm like, I don't have time. So then now my hairstyles are more practical in terms of what fits my lifestyle. Because it doesn't come first in that way. It's important, but it doesn't come first over, like, I can't be late to an important Zoom meeting because I was straightening my hair.
That's it.
That's unacceptable for me.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, I am very much in the same headspace. Like, I feel like that was, again, that part of the growing up, and again, the understanding your idea in the sense of something like what's important to you. And again, that was coming up within the study when we're talking about stigma around mental health. A lot of women were saying they were hiding it, we didn't want to discuss these things, but like they're discussing those issues, they're discussing now. This was around like the death of George Floyd when I was doing this work, and everyone was just like, there was just so much stuff going on right now. I don't have the mental capacity to care about X, Y, Z. Do you know what I mean? What's important to me right now, and what do I have capacity for? And again, as Black women, you're often carrying a lot. So again, you don't have the headspace for all those things. And I always say this to my supervisors all the time when they're doing the work. Like, honestly, I can't take on X, Y, Z because right now my focus is on this. I have this going on. These are my priorities. Anything outside of that, I don't want to hear about it.
How would you say this project has affected or impacted your sense of self? You must have so many reflective moments where you're doing something with a focus group, and maybe someone in that focus group is an Anna, and you're like, oh my God. So how does that fit into your life now, having to do this every day?
It's interesting you said that, because within my focus group, there was a lady who she was a doctor, she had just finished a PhD, and she was now in the corporate world. And she kept on saying, I don't know how you're surviving in the academic space. I could never do it. Because again, we're looking at the stats around Black women who are professors, blah, blah, blah. It's like 1% or something ridiculous like that. And she kept on empathizing and saying, I don't know how you're doing it. And I think, to answer your question, how I have changed as a person, I think initially when I started, this is going to sound really hard.
Say yes.
But when I started the PhD, my personality is that I was a competitor. So I was a young athlete. And again, to get to where I needed to be, I very much socialized by, my mom, my aunt, that you block out everything you need to do, focus on the end goal, and do what you need to do. So I could compartmentalize almost, I think now, to a pathological stage.
Yeah.
But you have to, right?
Yeah.
And I could take away the emotion from things and just focus on what I needed to do. But I found that being able to compartmentalize all those difficulties, block them out, and take the emotion out of things was making me a bad researcher.
I get, you need the emotion to be able to act as a driver, maybe?
Exactly, and to actually, I think, to empathize and understand my participants. And I think that's what was difficult, because I could not empathize, because as you said, a lot of the stories they were mentioning, or the experience they were reflecting on, was something that I had experienced or friends and family had experienced. So I felt as though if I was turning that off, I was ignoring a part of myself or my friends or family. So I've become more emotional, if that makes sense.
Okay, good for you.
So like when I reflect on that now, I'm like, was I a strong Black woman?
Is that me?
So, and also I think I've always been someone who has a potty mouth. Not potty mouth is probably wrong, but like I've always been able to set my boundaries.
Yeah.
Like now I don't take shit from anyone.
Good.
And I am like, I will respectfully be like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Respectfully, no.
Yeah, exactly. No, 10 out of 10, because I feel like also, and again, when you're working with certain people in the anti-racism space, there's this idea around, well, we're in this together, we're all doing this work. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, academia is cutthroat. With some people, they realize that they are going to get whatever they want out of it, even if they are people of color.
Yeah.
Some people are out to get themselves. So like now for me, it's figuring out who I want to work with. Do I want to work with you? Are we on the, do we have the same ideas? Do we have the same ethos? Excellent, we'll work together. We don't, I am not going to detest you. I am not going to hold anything against you, but it's not for me. I am not going to work for you.
That.
Do you know what I mean? Because
you have to have that line. No,
exactly,
you do.
My friends and I were like, I didn't come here to die.
I'm going to get that tattooed on my arm.
Like, respectfully, thank you, but no thanks.
Oh God, I'm going to get it right here. I did not come here to die. No. Good. Set the boundaries, because especially because the work you're doing is too important to have somebody come and rain all their like misdirection all over it. And then the time it's taken, like PhD is no joke. How long have you been studying, my good sis?
So I'm 3 years in now.
Okay.
Yeah, so like now I'm just started towards the end of my third year, going into my fourth year now.
How long have you been studying in general?
Did you have I feel attacked.
As you should, because I know for a fact it's gonna make me feel sick. How long?
So BSc was 3 years, and then I did some research. I don't know if you would count that as
I would
studying.
count it.
You would
Count it.
So I was doing research and teaching. So that was about another 3 years. That's 6. Did the masters for a year. That's 7. PhD now. 10. Oh Lord. It just felt a little bit sick.
No, I've got dry mouth. I've got dry mouth. Oh my god. Okay, but that's actually so impressive.
No, like for me, but I
maybe not for you.
No, honestly, for me, I think I want to be done by now.
No,
yeah, my mom, my aunts, they are like, Anna, I know we said you should get an education. Education is great. But we're tired, we're done.
Anna, baby girl, you're educated, sweetheart.
Exactly, like, get it over with, get a real job. And I'm like, rah.
Soon. Okay, what's in the future for you? Talk to me.
So in terms of what's in the future, if you speak to different people, they'll tell you different things. But I think I am currently doing an internship at Oxford with one of my supervisors, and I'm really enjoying working with him right now.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. We're thinking about fellowships. So again, continuing to do research, getting funding, retaining in this work when I'm a doctor.
Oh my God.
However, I really enjoyed working within the focus group, speaking to women, and I always wanted to be a clinician. So, Anna 101, when I first applied for university, I applied for medicine, got injured when I was an athlete, life happened, ended up studying psychology. So I'm thinking about doing the doctorate in clinical psychology and becoming a clinical academic. So I think what I want to do is open my own practice, focused on Black women. So I would be doing the EDI stuff around work like NHS England, all that stuff, and working with them, making those changes in the community. But I want to have a community practice that focuses solely on Black women and depression. So that's kind of what I want to specialize in.
I will be your first and most important client. I will be there all the time. They'll be like, Paige is here again.
But I also have friends who are already clinical psychologists, like Sarah. She's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
She's qualified clinical psychologist. So there are people out there already that are doing this work.
I mean, I'll wait for you. No shade to Sarah. I'm sure she's fantastic, but you're my girl. I'll wait for you. Thank you so much for coming and sitting and talking to me. I think there's more here for us to unpack, and I'm sure in other facets of our lives, we may or may not unpack them.
Maybe.
NDAs have been signed. And I also do want to try and create more in-person environments for this kind of discussion. So when I do these things, I will come to you, because even in this little 30 minutes, I feel like it's been very cathartic and very therapeutic for me. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. Honestly, it's great to actually be in a space and speak to people and bounce off ideas where I think I was able to be myself here. So a massive thank you to you for being so kind and inviting me to do this. And a videographer as well. Thanks, bro.
Thank you so much, Anna. And I hope for everyone watching or listening, this has been as valuable for you as it was for me.
Definitely.
Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.